Good to go? Jorge, you good? Okay. All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending tonight. We have the joint meeting of the Education Human Services Subcommittee along with Town Council. As current, there are 3 Town Councilors present, no quorum, but we do have a quorum of our committee. So the EH Subcommittee includes myself, Councilor Jorge Morales, and Mr. John Daniel. Also present is Councilor Gus Steves and the Town Manager Ron San Angelo. We have guests who will be afforded a quick opportunity to say hello and introduce themselves when the Town Manager's presentation on substance abuse comes up on the agenda. We have a couple of quick items to get through, but before we jump into those, I need to announce to comply with open meeting law and let everybody know that we are recording video and audio with a camera that's in the center of the room. If you do come up toward the front, please be careful of the cords that are laid out. We don't want anyone to trip. All right, so with that, we have a short agenda that includes a few items that we're going to jump into right now as Deputy Chief Dingy and others enter the room. Welcome. Jose, do you want to come sit up with Ron?
Sure.
Thanks.
Come up and do it. You have a sign-in sheet?
Yeah, it's in the back. Okay.
It's in front?
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Eddie?
Okay, so to get going with our agenda, we have a couple of short items that are listed 1 through 4. So item number 1 is vote to approve VHS Subcommittee meeting minutes of March 29th, 2018. They were in everyone's packets. Does anyone have any questions, comments, corrections, or can we have a motion to approve?
I have to abstain.
Okay.
As well.
All right. So that one, we don't have adequate votes to actually conduct, so we'll move along to the second item, which is vote to approve EHS Subcommittee meeting minutes of April 11th, 2018. We don't actually have those in our packets, so, and I apologize, that was my oversight. I thought that they'd already been sent. Item 3, vote to approve EHS Subcommittee meeting minutes of April 18th, 2018. Comments, questions, corrections, or a motion to approve?
I move to approve. Second?
Okay, I have one thing to add before we vote, and that is to please add any documents that were referenced during that evening's meeting. I will send you a list of those, if that's okay. And that would be my only addition. I don't have them listed out here, but I'm sure that's simple enough. So, any other comments, questions, corrections? All in favor? Unanimous? Thank you. All right. And finally, vote to approve VHS Subcommittee meeting minutes of April 26th, 2018. Comments, questions, corrections? Motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
I actually have a couple things I'm gonna bring up, including that actually. John, do you want to second that for us?
I did.
You did? Okay, thank you. All right, so the things that are highlighted in red, I actually have the sign-in sheet. I couldn't make out the gentleman's name. I didn't know who he was, quite frankly. I have no problem omitting until we get it corrected. And I'd also like to scratch out on the first page near the bottom the question marks next to Chapter 70. Chapter 70 funding was referenced. We don't need to question that.
Okay.
Okay? And then on the third page, down at the bottom, in red, Miss Karen's numbers, I would just eliminate that. That would be my recommendation. And finally, same thing on page 4, eliminate the items in red, missed Mr. Nash's comment.
Okay.
And finally, we'll just scratch out, without, if you guys don't object, meeting adjourned at, I didn't see that noted in the minutes or in the notes.
Okay.
Okay? And again, I'd add reference documents during the meeting. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. So if we're going to vote on this, it would be as amended, correct?
As amended.
Okay. All right. All in favor? Great. Thank you. Unanimous. All right. Item number 5 on tonight's agenda. Mr. Pelletier is going to step up. Discuss a transfer of $2,500 from health part-time salaries to health overtime to cover overtime costs for the remainder of the fiscal year and make a recommendation to council. Mr. Pelletier, would you like to cover that for us?
If I could, I sat down with the admin for the department.
Yep.
We identified a $603 shortfall as of right now. We then projected, didn't really project, we know that there's going to be some additional overtime between now and the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
So we just assumed a 1 week, we want to set aside a full week for that person's overtime.
Mm-hmm.
And the resulting number comes right about to $2,500 to get us through to the end of the year. The monies are available in the part-time salary. Actually, the reason we fell short, this was actually a well-estimated budget, but we fell short because the gentleman who does the part-time for us, Al Reyes, left us right after we approved the budget, but right before the new fiscal year.
Okay.
So we ended up with 16 weeks where we had to have somebody at the landfill on Saturdays covering at overtime.
Okay.
Now that we've got the curbside guy back, he does our landfill at regular time on Saturdays. That's why the shortfall happened. The money's there because the guy, we didn't replace the position until 16 weeks into the year. So we have 16 weeks of that part-time person's salary.
Okay. And you, before anybody asks questions, $2,500 will get you through the end of this fiscal year. You're fairly confident?
We're fairly confident. We set aside, we have a landfill monitor, and every time that she's out, we incur about an hour of overtime. We should have Saturday covered without a problem now. We put the extra week in just to make sure the money can either sit in the overtime budget or it can sit in the part-time salary budget. But we would feel more confident to pad this one a little bit in case the landfill monitor wants to go on a week's vacation.
Okay. All right. Any questions?
All positions are covered now. Everything's all set.
Yes, I have my department is complete right now.
Great.
Good question. Thank you. All right. Would anyone like to make a motion?
So would it be to accept the transfer?
Move to recommend the council approve.
Okay, so recommend to the town council to move the transfer or accept the transfer of the $2,500 from the health part-time salaries to the health overtime to cover overtime cost for the remainder of the fiscal year.
Okay.
Second.
Second by Mr. Daniel. Thank you. Anyone questions? All in favor? All right. Andy, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. All right. Very, very good. So that's okay. Zip. All right. Item number 6 on tonight's agenda, discuss the acceptance of a $550 donation from Cornerstone Bank for the summer concert series and recommend to council. Just so that everyone's aware, these smaller items seem very simple, but we are very grateful to always receive them from our community sponsors. We had several from our last EHS meeting that went through. Tonight, I know that Mr. Rohnfeldt isn't here, but on his behalf, he did communicate with me and indicate that he has more coming. We couldn't squeeze them in. To comply with open meeting law, we'd have to have 48 hours notice. This one he brought to our attention last week, so it was added on Monday morning, and it did comply with open meeting law. So if and when this goes through the council for approval, we'll send our gratitude to Cornerstone Bank for this nice donation. So can we have a motion to recommend council accept a $550 donation from Cornerstone Bank for the summer concert series?
Sure, I would recommend to council to accept the donation of $550 from the Cornerstone Bank for the summer concert series.
Very good.
Second.
And second by Mr. Daniel. Very good. All in favor? Very good. Thank you. Okay, that passes unanimously 3-0. Next on the agenda is the presentation discussion of the town manager's document, which will be on my laptop, and I'll probably...
He took up and put the cover. Took the cover up there.
Oh, you did? Okay.
He
Sorry.
put it on as he was doing it. Yeah.
All right, I wasn't paying that much attention. So what we're going to do tonight, first of all, on behalf of the town councilors that are present, I'd like to thank everybody that's in the audience that has chosen to join us tonight. I know there are many members of the town manager's advisory panel that worked diligently for the last year or so alongside Town Manager San Angelo and Deputy Chief Dinghy to accumulate information and come up with ideas. And with that, I'd like to turn this right over to Ron and ask him to conduct this as he sees fit, to make introductions and pass along any notes that you have, and then to get right into your document.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have quite an extensive document here, and I'm going to go through it relatively quick. But I want to first talk about the purpose of what this is all about. I think all of us recognize that throughout our nation there's a serious substance abuse problem. It's not just in Southbridge, but it's all across the state and across our nation. But we have to deal with it here on a Southbridge basis, and that's what we're doing tonight. We're talking about a specific plan that deals with us. And I've been very fortunate that the Deputy Chief has really become a partner on this issue with me to provide leadership. But we put together what I think is an awesome team, and very shortly I'm going to introduce, or have them introduce themselves to you. What happened is that, if you probably remember, the governor came out with the whole issue of the opioid epidemic, and the Massachusetts Municipal Association kind of put out some recommendations as to what towns should do to get involved and to try to deal with this particular problem. The advisory board itself is made up of all different organizations in town that deal with the issue of substance abuse. So you have treatment centers, you have the Department of Public Health, you have different organizations that are involved in this problem, all right, through a variety of different medias, and we'll get into the details of that more specifically. But I'm really proud of what we've done here. Now, you'll recall the chief and I had worked with our group, and we came to the town council and we requested funding, and the amount was about $25,000. And the purpose was how can we all work together as a community to deal with the issue of substance abuse? And what would be the best way to tackle that?
Can I interrupt just for 1 second so the public's aware that we've just reached the quorum of the council, so just need to make sure that's stated. Thank you.
Okay. So I'm not going to go through some of this fast. This is just a table of contents for those people so they can understand this document. The next page here really is just a summary about who we are as a town. It's really our history and how our time came about with the basic history of American Optical, that kind of thing. And I think we all recognize the history of Southbridge. But it's a working class town, it's a middle town, it's not a wealthy town. We have our host of issues as it revolves around wealth and poverty. And that does have an impact on the role as it relates to substance abuse as well. But this just basically gives a basic outline of who we are as a community. Now this plan was developed because I made a promise to town council when they gave us the $25,000 that we would develop a responsible plan to bring forward to this community, one that the town councils could be proud of, because they've come forth and gave us 25 grand. That's a big item to come forward and trust us to develop this plan. So the great group of people that are here tonight helped us put together this plan, okay? But the call to action was to start dealing with the substance abuse problem, and there's 10 opportunities and recommendations for local leadership. This came from the Massachusetts Municipal Association. So we said, okay, this is what they think all local governments can do. How can we as a community sort of now take the bull by the horns and move forward on this? And we have a mission statement. I want you to hear the mission statement. It's pretty clear, and I'm not sure that the way this is set up, I'm going to get to it. No, not the way I'm doing it, but I'm going to read it to you. We believe that education is the key to reducing substance abuse. The best tool against developing an addiction is avoiding drug or alcohol use in the first place. It is clear that drug abuse affects all areas of the quality of life. It has negative influences on families, communities, and on our health. Now, there's 3 areas that you can really tackle in this area. One is law enforcement. And Southbridge does a great job with our police department going out and going after the drug dealers and doing everything in that respect. There's treatment, and we have a whole host of organizations that deal with treatment to help people who have the problem. 25 grand, we can't tackle the issue of treatment. We tackle the issue of law enforcement through our budget. So we decided as a group that the best way to deal with that 25 grand was on the issue of education. How could we make a big impact? Because if we can target people before they get into the drug abuse problem, we could have a much bigger impact. And 25 grand allows us to do that in a responsible way. And that's what we're going to talk about, is how we utilize that money as promised to the town council, how we utilize that money to get what I would call the most bang for the buck. How do we get the best investment? And that's where the expertise of the people in this room came in incredibly important, and because they know how to make an impact on the population we're talking about, right? And the next page I'm going to talk about, I'm going to have each of the members really quickly introduce themselves. And you'll see, if you look at this sheet, you'll see people from from the hospital here, you'll see people from Spectrum, New Hope, Head Start, and then you'll see department heads like, our public health director, our ambulance service is represented by our deputy fire chief, myself. Our school system is represented. I'm going to first start and ask if you just stand up, introduce yourself. You want to say just a few words. We've got a lot of people, so just short and sweet about why you think this is important. I'm going to start off with you, okay?
My name is Michelle Morrissey. I'm social service coordinator for Head Start here in town. This issue is very important to us because we have a lot of families that parents have died because of substance abuse. Grandparents have taken custody of their grandkids. We currently have families that are attending Spectrum for services. So this really affects our families. We have about 263 children in our program.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Evelyn Velez. I'm the co-director for the Head Start and Early Head Start program. And one of the reasons that I came over here is the same reason that Michelle already explained about so many families and affected by this problem, and so many parents and the family being split, and the family become like single parents or single dad. And I'm here to really support the Substance Abuse Advisory Board, and I'm very, very pleased to be over here and support the town manager in this initiative.
I'm Brittany George. I'm the Spectrum Health Systems. I'm the operations manager for our location here in Southbridge. And I think that, mean, it's important to us because we treat these clients. We have a census right now of 420 clients in Southbridge. About 50% of our census is from the town of Southbridge. Outside of that, personally, I think we all know somebody, a friend, a family, a friend of a family, a family of a friend, somebody that has suffered from addiction. So I think that's the most important reason why we're all here.
My name is Camille Diaz. I am the Director for Healthy Families. I am here to support the Substance Abuse Task Force because the work that we do is mainly with teen parents and first-time parents of any age across Southern Worcester County. And we do see a lot of substance abuse. Our participants being active users or participants that are looking for ways to get treatment and move on forward.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Sweetman. I'm the principal of the middle school in Southbridge. And we're here because it's extremely important and a big part of our job to set our students down a positive and healthy path. As you know, middle school students are influenced by their peers, the environment around them, and it's a big piece to have prevention for our students.
I'm Andy Pellick, I'm the Director of Public Health. When I came into town 4 years ago, one of the first things I did was a health assessment of the town. A couple years after that, I did a second health assessment. Invariably, I've looked at a hospital's health assessment. Opioids, over-the-counter drugs are always one of the top 5 maladies in the town of Southbridge. No question, as Director of Public Health, I take a keen interest in addressing the opioid problem and the prescription medicine problem. So I'm just really eager to see this go from planning stage to actual activation stage and taking an active role in making something happen here.
Hi, I'm Jasmine Lucas. I'm the middle school family liaison. And as Rebecca said, this is a critical age middle school where a lot of kids are being influenced by their peers, their environment. A lot of our students have been witness to overdoses, have been witness to parents getting arrested, family members getting arrested. So the issue really impacts them in a lot of different ways. And this is an age where they are easily influenced, and so we want to be some positive influences. I'm here to support that.
Thank you, Jasmine.
So I want to emphasize that this isn't my plan, it's not Jose's plan, it's our plan. And everybody's had input into this. And what really helps me feel comfortable about this plan, and should help all of you feel comfortable about this plan, is that they're the experts in the field. They see every day what's going on and occurring in our neighborhoods, in our schools. So it's really critical to get them involved so that when we were making these decisions, we knew that the decisions we were making really had an impact as to what we were trying to do. The next pages you'll see here are really just the name of the organizations. You'll see the fire department's involved, myself, the Southbridge School Department, Spectrum. It just really lists all the different organizations. And I'm not going to get into those. They explain those a little bit, but you got New Hope. Yep, that, Chief.
Just to add, as you can see, this is really a team of professionals. It's a great partnership for the town to tap into these resources. We're tapping into the experts, the social services, the rehabs. We have professionals at the table kind of counseling me and the town manager being our partners for this committee. So it's important that, you know, when we formed this committee, that we tapped into the resources we had in town. And you could see just by, that's only a portion of them, that we have the experts in the field that are giving us advice, leading us, and creating this plan.
Doctor, do you want to say anything? We kind of skipped by you.
I'm here.
Hi, I'm Dr. Dan Ceballos, chiropractor at the Specific Chiropractic Center of Southbridge. And for me, what was important was when I heard about the council, I just wanted to get involved and help. I don't directly deal with opioids and pain epidemic in my office every single day, but I do like to provide any sort of health information, health knowledge, and just any sort of input to help bring this great plan to fruition.
And just to talk a little bit about the history of even the PD's involvement, I'm part of the committee as well. Just I'm the deputy chief in town, Southbridge Police Department. This is a national epidemic, but that doesn't mean that the town of Southbridge can't take the lead on it. We could sit back and watch, or we could sit back, or we could take an active role in solving the problems. And I think this committee is doing that. We can't solve the world's problems, but we could probably affect what we do in Southbridge a little better. That's it.
A compliment, just to recognize that we've had a number of town councilors who showed up at our meetings as well. You know, Rick has been at our meetings, and Wally McKenzie, when he was here, showed up at our meetings. Gus was at a meeting, and Denise Clemens was at our meeting. So we've had a number of councilors come in to give their input and to show up at these meetings. So I just wanted to recognize that that was the case.
And one thing, our PD took the lead back 2 or 3 years ago in administering Narcan to the public. There was other PDs that didn't want to do that. You know, the unions got in the way. Southbridge Police Department just took it and ran with it, and we saved a lot of lives with the partnership with the fire department, and that's a key issue. Then we developed a care program as well. So this came perfect into play when we created this advisory board, because it basically helps the town even more. You know, because we could keep Narcanning them, you know, and all they're gonna do is go back to the drug. The addict is that much addicted that he wants to go after the drug more and more and more. So we have to create a plan where, okay, we keep saving their lives, we're keeping them alive until we could have a plan or educate and provide those resources to save further lives.
So one of the first steps we took when we got the group together is we all came together and we started understanding each other and where each person was coming from. The next thing we did was a survey. I wanted to hear from each of the members what they thought the priorities of this group should be and how we should start tackling that, right? So you'll see on here, this was a survey that we did right out of the box. And education, of course, was the leading issue. How do we stop substance abuse from ever becoming a problem? So you'll see the rankings you go through this. Education was the number one item. Then providing information about treatment services. That was really important. We need to help people that are already addicted and already have the problems. Networking between all organizations. How can all of the groups here work together to help problems, right? Sometimes a patient doesn't know where to go. And different organizations here, by understanding each other, we now know better how to refer people from one agency to another. So that was really, just bringing this group together was important to help with the problem, because we could service the people that need treatment quicker and understand the needs, right? Promote zero tolerance. We really want to make and let people know just how bad it is to get involved in this so they never start, right? Increasing positive activities for kids. Anything we can do on a positive note hopefully reduces them getting involved in negative activities. And it was interesting that law enforcement arresting drug dealers wasn't the top priority, right? People recognized that there were other things that were even more important than that, but that is important. But helping people, this isn't about punishing people as much as it is trying to stop the addiction and helping people. I think that really became a big focus of this group, okay? And then the least thing in this priority list was arresting users. You know, I don't think anyone here looks at users as criminals, but people with a problem. And that wasn't the big focus on, let's see if we can throw all the users in jail. That doesn't solve the problem. It just fills up our jails and really doesn't do anything. So it was sort of interesting to see the different dynamics in this group and how they perceive these problems. Now, I can't see the headline here, but this is a news article about Massachusetts, and I'm just going to read the headline. Opioid epidemic statistics reveal that Mass leads the nation in opioid-related ER visits, right? So that tells you the problem is here. It's really bad in the Northeast, particularly Massachusetts has a huge opioid problem, and that's why the governor's involved. And that comes down to us as a responsibility to do everything we can to save people's lives as it relates to overdoses and trying to get people off the overdose problem. As we move down, we're talking about actual opioid-related overdoses, right? And I have a chart that shows the opioid-related deaths by month, and it actually shows the Southbridge numbers, right? So in 2016, we had 7 people die as a result of opioid overdoses, right? Now, that's deaths. I can't tell you how many people that our ambulance company has essentially brought back to life. They would overdose and they come very close to dying. They would use Narcan, a police fire, and they bring these people literally almost back to life. those numbers are increasing. Because of Narcan, they've saved a lot of people that otherwise would be dead today. And that's huge. So you have to realize that our ambulance providers, our firemen, are going out literally and seeing these people and bringing them back. I can't express enough how important it is our police, fire, and our emergency services, our hospital, what they're doing out in the field to help people, to save them, and hopefully give us time to get treatment for them or get them into some service that could turn their lives around. But I wanted you to see the actual number, and that number in 2012 was only 2. So it's increasing, and the amount of overdoses is increasing dramatically, okay?
And I'll add to this, we had a bad batch of heroin over a weekend, and there was 14 overdoses. They were all saved. So imagine, one person overdosed 3 times. So imagine if the Narcan wasn't there, we'll be national news, 14 deaths. When I got on the job 10 years ago, you show up to an overdose, it's a death. Usually there's no coming back. Now, they come back. Think about that stat right there. Just one weekend, 14 overdoses. Where would we be on that chart right there?
It's scary. It really is scary when you start seeing the numbers, right? So this next sheet is just the Massachusetts statistics for drugs. And a lot of this was, we needed to see the data so we could understand how to solve the problem. So the beginning of this report is really data-driven to provide us with the information of what's really happening out in the state and in the town, right? So it shows, you know, the amount of males and females and different people of nationalities using drugs. Then the next page will talks about the type of drugs that they're using. And then specifically, we compare the state averages to Southbridge. So you can look.
Ron, can I interrupt you? I'm sorry. I just want to make it clear that it is a little out of focus. We tried to finagle it earlier.
Yeah.
So if the data isn't clear to anybody, I know a lot of the folks in the audience are on your panel,
Yeah.
but this plan will be available. You're going to publish it
That will
online.
be on the town's website,
Yep.
so in the tomorrow I'll get it on the town's website and we can see it. And you're right, the members of our team have this report, so they're familiar with it, they've read it. This is really about you, and all the members of the table have this report as well.
Sure.
And I'm kind of going through it quickly because it's a big report.
Right.
But we're showing the state averages compared to Southbridge. So you can see how we compare to the state in that area, and we're looking, all these statistics came from the state of Massachusetts, so they're real numbers, real data driven, so we could understand how this problem is. So you see drug use characteristics, and it talks about the different types of drugs. Right? Now this next sheet talks about specifically our fire department, and what are the statistics in our fire department. And this is when you start getting scary, when you actually see the real number of calls, and this really outlines the problem and how our fire department is dealing with this issue, right? So this is from a period of December 31st, 2016 to December 13th. So it's a year period, right? And it shows the age range, that these are overdoses, right? And you have one person below 22 years of age, 37 people between 22 and 49, right? So that's where a big part of that problem is, in that age group. After people get out of college, they're working, they really get more and more addicted. And as you get more and more addicted, the chances of overdosing is higher and higher, right? Because you need more drugs to get that high, and that's where you see the most overdoses. 10 people are 50 years old to 64 years old, and then 3 people from 65 plus. So it tells you that really the impact is, really what happens is they start using and experimenting in the high school age, they get worse in college, and then it just keeps getting worse, and the addiction problem just keeps growing, okay? First doses of Narcan were administered by the Southbridge Fire Department 41 times, Southbridge Police Department 7 times. More and more you're going to see family members administering Narcan to save lives. Drug dealers literally, they say the drugs, they give you Narcan with it. So you're more likely to buy the drug because you might survive by taking the Narcan with it, right? It's weird. And family members are Narcaning people, so the overdose never shows up at the hospital or at the police department or fire department because family members are administering it, right? So we don't even see the full problem as to what's going on, okay? So these numbers, obviously Deputy Chief Norman put these together so we could get a good feeling of what's happening in our fire department. So our numbers first were kind of general state numbers. Now we're getting more and more specific to age, okay, and to Southbridge. And it just breaks down by age. It's a graphic chart of it. And then we get into the police department, right? Same kind of thing. This is something that our deputy chief put together, Jose put together. Jose, why don't you talk a little bit about your sheet since you put this one together?
Well, we responded to 62 reported overdoses, and sometimes even the deaths are questionable when they come back from the state because they can't determine if it was a true overdose or not. So those original state numbers might not truly reflect the overdoses that occurred in Southbridge. It might be just undecided, undetermined overdose. But we got reported 62 reported overdoses, as well as I broke it down to we did 12 search warrants. Our detectives conducted 12 search warrants, and if I could just educate the public a little there. It's just that I know people call and say, hey, there's drug dealing in my neighborhood. I know there's traffic is in and out of that house, and it's all said and done. You think it's that easy, the public, but truly it is, because we live in Massachusetts, and I'll be kind and I'll be careful with what I say, we have to buy off a certain drug dealer a certain amount of times before we could raid the palace, the house, get inside the house. We can buy right off of them, but we can't get into the house until we do a certain amount of things. So an investigation truly takes probably a minimum of 30 days by the time we get the proper buys to get into the house. So to even do 12 search warrants with a detective unit our size, which is usually 4 to 5, that's a lot of work. That's a lot of surveillance, that's a lot of overtime, that's a lot of, sitting behind bushes, looking at people and things like that. So that's really a lot of work. We're pretty productive with our search warrants and arrests. We yielded 18 arrests out of 12 search warrants, so that's pretty good. Usually there's a couple people, and now the drug dealer is getting smarter as well. They're using stash houses, so their drugs are not in the house they live in, it's somewhere else, even in another town. So it takes multi-jurisdictions to conduct the investigation. Now we have to call Charlton, Sturbridge to, hey, I think they're stashing in that house. One of our investigations led to a stash house in Charlton, $30,000, significant amount of drugs. So that's becoming very common now. And I don't just want to keep reading down here, but there's also what we're doing as a PD that's a good initiative is when somebody overdoses, we do what's called the Section 35. So this could be done by family members, that's why I want to bring it up, because to educate the public as well. When you think your loved ones, you just have to be a parent, a sibling, a family member is into drugs, and it's they overdose, or you don't have to wait to that point. They start stealing. You have evidence that they're into drug use, maybe track lines and things of that nature. You could petition the court to put them into rehab. You go in front of a judge, tell your story, and the judge will actually put a warrant out there for the police to pick them up, bring them in, and bring them to court, and they'll put them in rehab immediately. The police department, if the family doesn't do that after an overdose, the police department does that. The Southbridge Police takes its own warrant out to apprehend the subject and bring them to rehab. So we're a little proactive in that nature. Yes?
How long are they in for? Can they just walk right out?
No, when it's court ordered, no. That's why we go through the process of a Section 35. When it's voluntary, when they volunteer, they can walk out, but usually it's at least 10 days,
Just to touch on a couple of quick things in here, right? Of the 46 individuals that were treated for overdoses, 4 died as a result of the overdose. Each of the 4 individuals who died were only treated 1 time for the overdose, right? But then, 1 individual was treated for an overdose 4 times. Think about getting close to dying 4 times, right? 1 individual was treated for an overdose 3 times. 9 individuals were treated for an overdose 2 times. 37 individuals were treated for overdose 1 time. So it shows that it's repeat. Once you have that addiction, it's hard to break it, and you could be going back and forth multiple
Just so you know, you have a question from Councilor Steves.
Yeah, actually, I guess it's mostly a person, Jose. I noticed, I was curious about how often, like the fire department has 51 EMS calls involving overdoses, and you have 60. How many of them are overlaps?
Most of them, yeah. These are 2 different stat sheets, so they're inclusive to one another, yes.
Okay.
Just from their perspective, that you're right, they're related.
In most cases, you either be able to end up cruiser there at the same time.
Yeah, usually that's what's happening. The 911 calls come directly to the Southbridge Police Department. So we're usually the first to respond most of the time when it's an overdose.
And I was curious, you get a stat here that says there was no Narcan administered in 24 to 62. Is that primarily because those weren't heroin cases?
Correct. They either either the fire, those might be the fire department stats that they administered it. The original, when we started using Narcan, part of record keeping was a little bit tough because now the fire department's keeping their record. The person got Narcan,
Yeah.
but whose dose was it? You know, it was getting into whose dose was it?
Right.
And it really, so we working that out with the fire department so we could get true stats. You
Does
know,
Narcan-
better reflection of what's happening.
Does Narcan work in anything but heroin?
It's opiates,
Alright.
so any opiate overdose.
Okay, so
it
it
will work.
won't affect cocaine or
So,
something.
and if you say you had a heart attack and they might suspect you're a drug user and hit you with Narcan, it's not gonna make things any worse. So usually, even in some scenes, we might administer Narcan when it wasn't needed.
So one of the steps that happened, and some of you remember when Apple Becky was here, we had a big drug abuse forum, and I had worked with Apple on that. And after that, we looked at some programs that were going on in the state, but the police department came up with a program called CARE. And I'm going to read you what the CARE program is. This is something that our police department in Harrington Hospital have really taken the initiative on. CARE, Community Assisted Recovery for Everyone, is a positive collaborative effort between the Southbridge Police Department and Harrington Healthcare Systems that offers help to those with a substance abuse disorder. They are dedicated to providing assistance to those who want help, but are not sure where to turn next. They want the program to be a resource for all community members. This is a program where if you have a drug addiction problem, you have drugs, you can go to the police department, you can turn in your drugs, you can ask for help, and they're not just going to arrest you. They're going to try to help you and work with Harrington Hospital to get you treatment and stuff. It's a program that, what was the sheriff that started something like that, the Angel program? Do you remember his name?
It was in Gloucester.
And there's a program in Gloucester that this was kind of tailored after, but it's different. But this is the Southbridge Police Department saying to the public, we're not here to arrest you, we're here to help you. We want to work with you and we want to find treatment for you if you have this substance abuse disorder. So this is an important program and it is available to residents that they can use it. And the next couple pages is really just talks about the CARE program and how that works.
Have you guys talked about this on cable?
What?
Have you guys talked about this on cable?
No, you're first.
Sure.
We wanted to talk about it with the council first, but you can bet that I'm going to be bringing this on the cable show to talk about this with members, right? So the next page is a Spectrum. I really want to thank them. They've been an important partner with our group in providing services. We've had numerous meetings in their facilities. And I asked them to give me their statistics so we could see exactly, you know, for people who don't know it, they're a methadone clinic, essentially. They do other services, but the big part of what they do is that. And we wanted to hear from them what kind of patients they had, not specific names of patients, but the statistics for them, so we could, again, understand the Southbridge specific problem. Now, Spectrum handles people outside the Southbridge area, but a big part is Southbridge, right? So this next sheet just goes, and I'm not going to get into the amount, but the number of clients, this is at the time, was 420 clients, right? It's a lot of people that are using methadone right now to deal with the effects of opioids. You know, this is a treatment where you get off the opioids, you get out of methadone, and it's a substitute that's less dangerous to people, is what it amounts to.
And that's a valuable thing about this committee. We have meetings at different establishments, and we had a meeting there at Spectrum, and even myself got educated on how the process works. So it was nice hearing how Spectrum, you know, provides that service and does things like that. So that's good resources and partnership that came together because of this.
I'll say, do you want to?
Yeah, I had a quick question. I don't know whether you can answer it or if you can, but I noticed in your data here, you talked about the number of clients, 65% are under age 27, and then it drops precipitously. Why?
Really?
Why is there such a big age range between in your client base there? I'm just curious.
I'm dropping what? I'm sorry.
Where it says here 65% of the clients are under age 27,
Yeah.
then it drops to 25% that are 28 to 47. I was curious why that is. Is it anything to do with people, the drug use killing people before 27? Or?
I think the rental companies did it best. Rental companies don't rent to you till they're like 24, 25. You mature. As you mature in life, you take less risk. If you're a drug user when you're younger, I think that's the age.
Yeah.
You're out partying, drinking. You're more vulnerable to use drugs at a younger age versus older. So if you kept away from drugs to 26 and beyond, you probably won't use them. But if you were, that's what the
I want to
stats.
add into that
And you
too.
could add.
A lot of the prescription opiates, that huge increase of physicians providing their patients with that, and them getting addicted to it for one reason or another is also a huge issue. If you're, in high school, you play high school football, that causes you get an injury, and then you're on medication for that for years and years, and then you're now trying to get off of it, and you're addicted to the medication. Now you're using heroin when you're 25, 26, 27, because it's cheaper than filling your prescription, or the doctor won't prescribe you anymore because you've been on it for so long, things like that. I think with that, explosion of overprescribing essentially kind of factors into that as well. And also what Ron and Jose was saying is, you get to a point where you're kind of like immune, and you need more to get high, and you need more, and even after your Narcan, same thing. You're gonna get Narcan, but chances are 24 hours later or less than, you're gonna be on the street using twice as much than what you just maybe used and were overdosed on. You think, these clients think, and these people that are addicted think that it's kind of a catch-22. I always have Narcan. I'm always going to be saved by Narcan until you're not.
Right.
Until something tragic happens and your body does what it does, and it'll, it's going to come to a point that it's not going to save everybody all the time.
One common thing we get when we administer Narcan is they get upset. We see them as, you're dead, you're dying, what did you do? Are you crazy? Why are you doing this drug? They see it as, you ruined my biggest high.
Yeah.
You just ruined my biggest high.
Right.
So that same person will leave that situation and go try to get high again because they were in the biggest high. Not that they were killing themselves or they were dead. You ruined their biggest high. So that's what you're dealing with. So
That's a perfect way to put it.
So there's a couple of particular groups that we target. The reason they're here because they play a big impact in this area. Obviously, Spectrum plays a big impact. They deal with a lot of specific patients. The next one is Harrington Hospital, and they have a Harrington Recovery Services, which is a part of the hospital thing. It's in a separate building, but...
Ron, before you go on, can Esteban ask a question? He
Sure,
has his
I'm
hand
sorry.
Yeah, I wanted just some clarification in regards to the numbers.
If you made any notes, that was Brittany from Spectrum, okay?
You're saying 57% of their current clients are from the town of Southbridge.
Yeah.
Now, is that 420? Is that your actual total?
That's our current client, like number of clients right now. Our current census is 420 right now. Yeah.
All right, perfect.
It's about it. And 57, I think, was from probably in the beginning of this report, started the study. So I think it's probably, if not 57 to 60%, but it's a very large portion.
Thank you.
And if I may ask, how long do people usually take methadone or maybe other alternatives before they get clean?
Before they get clean. So it takes somewhere between, I would say probably like 3 to 5 weeks to determine a stable dose, and that stable dose can come from, there's many factors that play into that. How much did you use? How long have you been using? Things like that. Not necessarily how tall are you, what's your weight, what's your things like that, but it's basically dependent on use. And I'd say it's probably somewhere between 3 to, like I said, 3 to maybe 6 weeks, depending on how quickly they can.
No, but I mean, once they're on it, and once you've determined that
How long are they in treatment?
how are they
Yeah,
on
it
the drugs
depends.
themselves?
It depends. We've had clients on it for just a couple years that wean off. We've had clients on for 20 years, 25 years. It's really, not just methadone itself, but you're also required to do treatment. So meeting with your clinician and being on the methadone coincides with each other to determine when you're ready to wean off. It's when you're mentally ready at that point, when you're stable and you can figure out some of the stuff that made you start using and understand yourself better, and eventually working with your clinician, like I said, to determine when's a safe time for you to come down. And when you come down, it can be at your discretion. You can start at 1 milligram a week, you can start at 3 milligrams every other day and see how you feel, and you can always freeze it too. So you don't, once you start weaning off of it, that doesn't mean you're gonna have to finish weaning off of it and start and be off of it, you know, after your detox, but
If you come
it
off,
just really depends.
if you were to drop it suddenly, would you go into withdrawal?
Yes, yes.
So the next again is Harrington Recovery Services, treats adults 18 plus with substance abuse issues and co-occurring disorders. The offices are conveniently located in Southbridge, Webster, and East Brookfield, and our services range from inpatient treatment to individual counseling. From December 1, 2016 through December 1, 2017, outpatient recovery services treated 1,780 patients. All right? That's just for recovery services in those multiple communities. But that's a lot of people that are being treated. And they do a variety of things. They have inpatient admission, they have partial hospitalization program, intensive outpatient program, relapse prevention group, weekly treatment groups, recovery skills drug course. So they offer different services for different people depending upon need. So there's a lot of specified services. I want you to recognize that's a lot of people that are in treatment now, getting help from the people in the profession now. By networking, by improving our services, we're trying to get more people. There's more need from people than there are services. So there's a lot of people out there that are not getting services yet. Okay. The next page is really just a list of places to get information. So drug and alcohol addiction services. Obviously, we wanted to have people who've seen this report. We wanted everybody to share information. And we put the contact information for Spectrum, Harrington Recovery Services, U Inc., Alcohol Anonymous, which is a big issue too. And there's AA meetings here in Southbridge that people can become aware of. The CARE program, Riverside Community Care, these are all people who are providing services directly for this issue right here in town. And we wanted people to easily get that list. And I stress that because if you don't have this and you're just a client, you're somebody that has a drug addiction, you don't know where to go. And it's panicky. And you go on the internet and there's 800 pages that come up with so much stuff. You can't figure out what to do. So we wanted to put in a simple, easy way for somebody to see and get the help that they need, okay? The next page is I think actually Rick was involved in giving me this information. It's some basic information from Dr. Ruth Potier. And she does a lot of research on drug addiction and stuff. And this talks about different impacts throughout the country in terms of drugs. So I'll give you just one example. Genetics account for 50% of risk of addiction. Children should be taught that if you have a family history of addiction, you are much more likely to attain addiction. There's a lot of these kind of statistics that help us to understand the problem, and that's why we put them in here, so people could have a good understanding of what's going on. The number one drug utilized by students is now marijuana, while cigarette smoking has decreased dramatically, right? So why? Because students now understand the health dangers of smoking. Marijuana is becoming more popular because it is perceived by students to be less dangerous. It doesn't mean it's true. It could be more dangerous because there's a lot of substances mixed in with marijuana, but it's a perception issue, so we have to turn that perception around. But you have to understand their train of thought to figure out how to overcome that train of thought, right? So that's why this information is so crucial.
And now your teenage mind thinks marijuana is legal, and they could use it whenever they want, wherever they want. So past generations started smoking cigarettes. That was the thing. I'm smoking in the corner. This new generation is starting with marijuana. So we're starting up here now. So parents have to be really aware. That's why the addiction happens much faster. Past generations started smoking cigarettes, maybe moved up to alcohol, then kept going. This generation right away thinks marijuana is legal to them and is experimenting very early.
So we also wanted to let parents know what they could look for. Parents don't have any clue what to look for in terms of drug use in their with their kids, right? So we put them more time spent away from home, frequent secret phone calls, trouble with police, missing money, credit cards and their valuables, pawn slips, purchases returned for refunds, small plastic bags. We want people to see how they could spot it. The more you educate parents to spot it, the quicker they can deal with the issue, right? And again, it's all about education and treatment as early as possible before the addiction really kicks in, so you can help these kids. Also, we describe about the information you'll see on the sheet about Narcan and what it is, because people don't know what it is. But how you get, if you were a family member, you have a child who's addicted or an adult member who's addicted, and you want to have Narcan in your house, how would you go about getting it and how would you administer it if you had it? So we wanted to provide that information to people as well. The next page is really just sources of information. It's National Institute on Drug Abuse, Substance Abuse and Mental Health, Service Addiction, Massachusetts Drug Rehab. It's a whole bunch of immediate links, so if you needed information, you could just go to that link and get it.
If I could just go back to the signs.
Yep.
it's always easy after the fact to say the red flags were there. You see that with the school shootings, you see that with, even with the overdoses, you could see that the red flags were there. I'll tell you that the red flags are there, and as parents, you should be picking up on them. Don't wait till that it's too late when your child overdoses and you said, you know what? He was hanging out with this one, he was doing this, he was coming home late, I found all this, vaping things over here, the flags are there. You're the parent, be their parent, look in their rooms, see what's going on with your kid, take their phone, you're paying for it, see what kind of text messages are in there. You're responsible for that child's future. Kids make dumb decisions. So I think as a parent, we need to stop parenting and make them make wiser decisions. And if you're aware of those dumb decisions, step in.
So now we have the demographic, right? So we understand the problem. We can see what's going on. We can see the clients out there for these different organizations. We know who the people that provide treatment are. Now what do? Now we have $25,000, and how do we get the most bang for our buck, and how are we going to implement that, right? So I'm going to say, let me just read a short paragraph. The Southbridge Town Council has appropriated $25,000 to educate the public as to the problem of substance abuse in our town. The goal, and that's what this next whole section is going to be about, is to develop prevention activities that will help to reduce the use of illegal drugs in our community, right? So this goes to the focus on education and keeping people from getting involved in drugs in the first place. And we believe as a group that with this limited amount of money, this was the best way to tackle this problem, to deal with the whole educational component of it, okay? We recognize that this is not a Southbridge problem, it's a national program, and we agree the best use of these limited funds is for education and prevention. Now, the State Department of Massachusetts Prevention Unit, Department of Public Health, Bureau of Substance Addiction Services, they established some goals and strategies, and we basically agreed with the state's goals and objectives and have come to the same thing. So their goals were preventing substance abuse disorders with a particular focus on the under 21 age population. That's a state goal. Using strategies aimed at preventing and reducing community problems related to alcohol and other drugs that have also shown to have impact on the rates of substance abuse. Sustaining prevention efforts through local policy, practice, and system changes. Engaging diverse use of community members and incorporating meaningful youth and community involvement in prevention efforts focused on positive outcomes for youth and communities. So those are the state goals that with all the experience they have and the knowledge and professionals they have, that's their goals. We basically came to the conclusion that we share those same goals and we're going to focus on those goals as well, right? So it makes sense. We're not creating new stuff, we're focusing on what state professionals agree. Now, we've already had some accomplishments. It's just as a result of coming together as a group, and I just wanted to quickly share those. We participated in the 2016 Red Ribbon. These organizations all got involved. We put red ribbons all throughout towns, and we promoted the fact of educating children and families about drugs, and we had the pledge cards and all kinds of things, and counselors wore ribbons, and we made a big issue of that. It's part of an educational program.
2017 as well.
Yeah, we're going to get that kind of in here with 2016, 2017. We provided racks of information. You'll find in Town Hall in the front there's a rack of information about substance abuse and how to get help. Same thing is true at the library and the police department, and the school system has it in the school system. So the Department of Public Health worked and actually purchased the racks, and we got free information booklets from the state, and we filled all those racks to be able to see that people need help. The information is right there. That's already done. We had Chris Herron, and thank you to Spectrum on this. Spectrum was huge on this. Chris Herron is a old Celtics player who puts on a great anti-prevention program. Some of the counselors who saw it were just, like me, amazed. It was a wow event. It was that spectacular. And he did a speech and a presentation to the high school students, and I think all of us walked out there. It was emotionally charged, had real meaning, connected to the kids, and I think that had real big impact on that day, right? We had 5 large drug posters. You might have seen them. I got Baypath and the police department, I think the union or police department gave me a couple $100. I got Baypath. We had 5 big posters that we put up at different fields in town with the Red Ribbon campaign logo, so to speak, just educating kids about drugs. Those are all out. And then, of course, we did the 2017 Red Ribbon Week as well. So these are things that didn't cost us a lot of money. We just took the initiative and started moving this project forward, right? So now we get to the 25 grand, and we a lot of discussion about how to best use this. And I want to start with middle school. And this is where I really want to appreciate the schools that are here. Rebecca and a high school principal at the time was
Under council.
council, and Andre. Andre was very involved and helped us, and they've agreed to work with us on these things. So first, we had to look at the middle school and get, again, the demographics about what's going on in middle schools and what kind of drugs they're using, right? So I looked at state national averages, and the recoveryvillage.com is the website. We look at the stats, and we're talking now middle school, okay, which is kind of scary. Alcohol, 8% of the kids; vaping, 6.6%; marijuana, 5.5%; inhalants, 2.1%; cigarettes, 1.9%; crack cocaine, 0.7%; hallucinogens, 0.5%; ecstasy, 0.4%. This is 6th or 8th grade we're talking. These are young kids, and they're just starting to kind of learn about it and just testing the waters, right? This is a critical age to start educating kids at that time, to stop it before the problem becomes right. So this is an important focus group when it comes to education. That's why it's really important to have Rebecca involved with this. And how do we get the message to those kids not to start? Because as they said, the longer they go without starting, the less likely they are to do drugs, right? We want them to get to be 27, and then their own mental ability starts focusing in and they don't get involved, right? So while experimental with drugs and alcohol be a normal part of growing up, it's a very real threat for children. Casual drug use can turn into full-fledged addiction regardless of the user's age. So what did the Substance Abuse Advisory Board come up with an action step? How do we deal with that, right? So we had a great event with Chris Herring at the high school. We think the same event should be done at the middle school. Now that, just so you understand, that's about a $2,500 price ticket that Spectrum paid for to have Chris Herring come in to make that present to the high school. We want to do that same presentation for the middle school. We think that he can connect in the same way to middle school. So we're going to bring Chris back. We called Chris' organization. They're willing to do it, but it costs about $2,500. Of the $25 grand, that's our first $2,500 expense, okay? We see that because we saw it at the high school. We know it works, and we felt really good about it. We're looking to do that in the middle school, right? What's that? Well, we're trying to time this all again for next school year. So the implementation, we wanted to sell the end of this program, but our implementation process is to begin this and implement it into the next school year as soon as possible, so we can target kids as they come back to school and in that process, okay? Develop signage and positive messaging at the middle school. The middle school, we want to be able to get positive messages all throughout the school, be they a poster or whatever it is, all around the schools, anti-drug materials, to have that message be prominent throughout the school in a positive way, all right? So that's important, and we budgeted again for that concept. I'll have to get back to the money because it's down. We want to develop, okay, and in the middle school we want to put a rack of information just like we did at the high school level. We want to put a rack of information there.
1,500.
Purchase both anti-drug posters and positive messaging in middle school. Utilize school website and Facebook pages for positive messaging on the subject. So here you need to target, and like Foolish Me thought everybody goes on Facebook. The kids have their own group, they don't even use Facebook anymore. So this is where getting the kids involved and the teachers involved to find the media that impacts them is going to be crucial. So this is where we want to engage children and have them help us spread the message to their group using their media sources, right? Student developed video anti-drug message, which was a concept of Dr. Councils. He did some great rap kind of videos. We'd like to have the kids do their own kind of, whatever, skit, whatever it is, and then let all the other kids see it. You know what I mean? If the kids have the message and send the message out, it's more effective than me telling them or Rebecca telling them. So we want to get the kids engaged. The cost of those things, we figured about $1,500 to get that message out, which we thought was a good use of spending. Now, parents are a key role in here. Too many parents are kind of sitting on the sidelines for this debate, right? Everybody's kid is the best kid in the world. No kids ever do drugs. That's sort of the mentality. So the statistics recognize that. So what was this? How do we deal with the parents? The most direct way of communicating with parents is through direct mail. We need to get a message to them. 25 grand doesn't buy TV time. We don't have the money to buy TV, radio, that kind of stuff. So we want to get a direct mail piece. The schools have targeted mailing to the parents of the kids in the school. So we can focus that targeted mailing through the school system to get a message to those parents about substance abuse. So the implementation step is working with Rebecca with the school system to direct a message that has impact. And a lot of this message is already done by the state. They have this information, but tailoring it to our school district, making sure that Rebecca is comfortable that this message is good going out to parents. And we figure that's going to cost about $2,200 between developing the piece and mailing it. Now, if we can get it cheaper through Bay Path or the print schools, we'll do it. But that's a reasonable cost estimate to get the message to parents. Again, that's why I really want town-school coordination, because I'm not going to do anything in the school system without the receiver and the principal's involved, and that's why they're really key players and they need to be on board, and I can't thank them enough for being here, okay? So that's the middle school. That's a certain, and I'll get to the total budget. The high school, we felt that the speaker was good. We want to stay with another speaker, but get a different speaker for the year because we've got a new group of kids. You can't give a message to a kid 1 year and never see the message again in 4 years, right? So we need to keep the message consistent year to year so that that message grows and stays, right? So again, we're going to be looking at a new speaker. And now the statistics, let's look at the different statistics now, right? So 35% of the kids now, you remember it was lower in the school, but 35% drank some alcohol, 21% binge drink, 22% rode in the car with someone who's been drinking, 10% drove after drinking. Now your numbers are climbing, right? Because now they're not longer experimenting and doing. Now they're actually using and trying this stuff, right? So the statistic number is high. 68% of 12th graders have tried alcohol, right? 37.4% of 12th graders drank in the last month. So now your numbers are increasing dramatically. In terms of illicit drugs, teens use marijuana the most. More high schoolers smoke pot than smoke cigarettes at this point. And as of 2015, high school seniors are about as likely to smoke weed as they are to drink. Right? So that shows you that marijuana, and again, we can't think of drugs in terms of when we were kids. The world is different now, and the statistics are different, and the strength of the drugs are way stronger than this kind of stuff that kids smoked in our day and age, right? So you have to think about this a little bit different. I'm not going to get much more into statistics on this, but you know, they're using, I mean, there's all kinds of things. In high schools, you're using amphetamines and opioids, and every type of drug is available nationwide in schools, not just Southbridge. It's just a reality that more and more drugs are getting into our school systems. So again, the professional speaker's another $2,500. We don't know who the speaker's going to be. We'd obviously work with the principal of the high school and the people out in the state substance abuse to figure out who the best speaker would be and how to spend that money in the best way. Same signing methods. We want to get signs up throughout the high school. The same thing in the middle school and the high school program is very much alike. And then again, so we'll purchase anti-drug messages, utilize school websites and Facebook pages, student developed videos, same kind of thing, cost $1,500, and then the same kind of messaging to the parents. We need to consistently talk with parents about what the message is going to be. And the message does change from the middle school message to what the high school message would be. And by having that message, it'll keep it consistently from year to year. Hopefully, in the future, we find funds to keep this going, right? But this is the concept. So the total cost for the high school is $6,200, okay? Then we got into the Red Ribbon Week. It's been very successful, and thanks because of all these people that have been involved. But we're doing it with no money. You know, I mean, Rick actually donated, I think, a couple $100 to buy ribbons and stuff, right? So this year we're saying, okay, we need to have a little bit of money to do the Red Ribbon Week. So we allocated $1,500 to buy ribbons and signs and have that program be spread out bigger and larger. So that is another $1,500. Drug-free banner. What are the benefits of using banner? And I outlined the different reasons why a banner could be useful. Obviously, you put up a nice banner, it stays there for a long period of time. It's advertising. The cost of that, we're looking about $1,000, and we'll work with Baypath and stuff to get a banner for that purposes. The big issue here, one of the big issues is a billboard. We talked about that when we came to you for the original 25 grand, and some of the councils like the concept of the billboard. But a billboard is a message we can get up on the signs in town, in the center of different signs. I know there's one on Central Street. We look at doing those billboards, and Andy Pelletier has been really huge in helping to put this together. And there's a lot of benefits of that type of advertising. That's why so many businesses use that type of advertising. But we want to develop a stronger message that would be on the billboard. We want the kids, I think we're talking about having the kids help us develop that message for the billboard. So again, they have input in what that message is going to be. Identify a location in a strategic area. Decide on the length of time that the message will be on the billboard. Identify ways to expand the message via other media. So maybe the billboard has the theme, and then we play that theme off in other ways, you know, through direct handouts and stuff. So the billboard is the thrust of it, and then you can have all kinds of messaging that coincides and benefits off of that billboard, right? The cost approximately, Andy came up for an 8-week message is about $3,250, which is 8 weeks is a long period of time. And all through that 8-week period, we'll be doing a lot of other things at the same time. So you want that message to keep hitting them over and over again, right? The next part of the thing I'm going to have Jose talk a little bit about, it's a tip 411 line. And this is important. It's both educational, but it you know, again, we want to get to where if we can stop some of these drug dealers and people and we start identifying those people, the drug dealers aren't there, we can prevent kids from using drugs, right? So this ties kind of both the prevention aspect into the law enforcement aspect, and I've asked Jose to work on that piece. So you want to kind of elaborate about what that is?
Sure, I'm a little biased with this because the only reason I'm on the committee is to get this for the police department.
We didn't know that was
I never mentioned that, did I?
No, well, in all seriousness, I think with this generation, tip 411, it's actually an application for your smartphone. So you download the application, which will go in lieu with the billboard advertisement. We get probably some good hits for red drug raids. We get like 68,000 to 80,000 hits on our Facebook pages. Some people still do use Facebook.
Yeah, older people.
We do get that many hits, so we would advertise on there. But the gist of the app is, what I like about this application is we'll get people to download it to their smartphones. And from there, you could provide tip information to the police. And one key thing is, it's anonymous, but once somebody gives me a tip, I don't lose them. I can still interact without knowing who they are. So, you know, people always ask, well, what about somebody says they're gonna kill themselves? Okay, I still got that tip going back and forth versus just a random tip going to the police department. You know, this way, somebody says, you know, this person's selling drugs, I know they're gonna meet at this place, we could ask more questions and they could give us more. I'm a strong believer that basically Sir Robert Peel said it best, you know, the people are the police and the police are just paid to do that job, people that are paid to do that job. So if we wanna turn around Southbridge, this community policing, you all have to get involved and send in the tips. There's a lot that the public knows that the police don't. You know, sometimes we ride around, the obvious to you in your neighborhood might not be the obvious to us. That house that's getting a lot of traffic, that people are going in all times of the day, we might not be aware of that. So this be people, and I understand that people are scared to call the police and say, oh, you know, this person's selling drugs, because then they ask for my name, and then if they find out, they're gonna slash my tires. I'm scared, scared, scared. This is a perfect opportunity for the public to download this application and be anonymous. Hey, this person's selling drugs. I'm sure now everybody's gonna be telling us everything, you know? But this is why I want this app for the town of Southbridge, because it'll be, what I said earlier, will be more of a partnership for the town of Southbridge. Is there any questions about the app itself?
If I may, through the chair, to you, Chief, looking at this proposed action step budget, which is $3750, I don't see any type of advertising. I know, you know, we can talk about Facebook and all that stuff, but I think seeing that the numbers, that's not the numbers I have here.
Yeah, no, you're right. This
The
is
numbers I have here in front of me, 21.9, being the numbers guy and seeing numbers, I wouldn't mind allocating some money from the 25 that we already have to make sure that if we're going to invest in such a program, that, you know, we are well advertising the program, you know, because I don't want to take it away, because at the same time, if you put too much information on a billboard, it gets clouded, it gets too much. So, you know, I wouldn't mind seeing its own billboard for a tip line. You know, opposite of the education piece that we're going to be targeting, because I think I agree with you wholeheartedly that it's going to take the whole community to take our community back. So investing, you know, another $3,000 to have just for a tip, I think would be wise. I know you might have other plans with the remaining $3,500, but I truly think it's not only just for the drugs. I think that tip program is going to solve and help be an asset, eyes and ears for the whole community, just not the opioid crisis. So that's why I'm talking beyond, you know. So I'm just looking at that. And again, if you can correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm not reading it correctly, but
you're right.
I think
I have a different version I can pull up if you just give me a second.
always said it.
I get a different one.
That's okay, that's fine, that's So let me first address Councilor Carrasco's quote thing. The version up there, I just realized it on this slide that it's the older version. The last thing we added to this was the tip line. So the tip line cost is absolutely correct. It's $3,750. And right now, we have allocated $21,900 of the 25 grand. Now, we purposely wanted to save a little bit of money, and I want to say really clearly to town council, is that we don't know exactly how things play out here. We may find little things that may add on, and we want to have the flexibility to do some things within that 2,500. So you're absolutely right, Mr. Chairman, Esteban, is that we want to have that 5 grand for a little bit of flexibility to advertise the tip line, to do some things we just don't know about yet, right? So it's not a lot of money. Maybe it's the following year, if we have a little bit left in there, maybe it's the following year, Red Ribbon campaign. We just don't know if there's ever gonna be any money in the future. So this document is not, I wanna make it really clear, it's not a policy document. It's how we believe, it's kind of a concept plan for how we're gonna allocate the 25 grand, right? And that was my promise to councilors, that I would show you how we're gonna spend the money. It was never really intended, at least from my point of view, it was never intended that council came back and vote this as some kind of policy. It was just to show them that we're being responsible, that we have a plan for how we're gonna allocate the 25 grand. So I think your idea is a good one. I think it's something we would seriously consider as we learn more about the tip line and how to advertise it. We would obviously put it on the page, the website for them, our website. But you're probably right, it's gonna need more to make that more successful. So we are hearing what you're saying and we agree.
Now, I could just add to that, this is just not a one-way tip line, you're tipping us stuff. We could push out alerts, notifications. There's been an armed robbery, we're looking for this person. This is actually another PD's application tip line that they use. I wish I had a bigger device here, but they push out things all the time, you know. We're looking for this person. We can even do snow emergencies here, so it'll benefit the town. You know, be cost savings with, you know, snow emergency in effect. It'll save people some parking tickets.
Yeah, that's right.
There's a place on this app where you could add links to different websites. So now you could have the town website, and they could go on that website to pay bills as well. So it could be a whole town website as well on an application that's on your phone. So every time a notification comes out, you get it. And if we're looking for somebody, or guess what, big accident on Main Street, avoid Main Street. That might be helpful for you. So this will be a very useful app that you want on your phone, and that's part of the advertisement we'll do, is that you'll finally want this app because it's gonna save you time, and you'll probably know, you know, it'll be the Southbridge News link for you guys too.
So we're glad to hear you like this. Why? Because this is not a one-time expense. This is something that the police department feels is effective. They're gonna put in their annual budget for the town. So this is something that may continue on, because this is kind of our way to look at the system to see if it's as beneficial as you can. But you can expect that if we like this, that in the next year's town budget, you're gonna, maybe not next year, but the year after, you're gonna see an allocation for this money to keep that tip line in place. And truthfully, when they first brought me with this, there's a variety of different tip programs, somewhere in like the $8,000 category. It just got too expensive. This was the one we thought was the best value for the money, just so you know.
Ron, we have Councilor Leclerc and then Councilor Carrasco and Steve's, okay?
Yeah.
Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for you. I was just gonna, on the same exact vein of that, you know, we have neighborhood watch signs all over town and some, you know, the more active areas for, you know, this type of transactions. I would love to see something like that, like replace the old neighborhood watch signs that nobody pays attention to and put up the tip 411 signs, because I think that it could definitely make a huge difference, and I love that you guys are doing this, so thank you.
You see the buses in town say tip 411 for Worcester, so we could advertise on the buses as well.
That would be great.
Excellent.
Before we go to Councilor Carrasco, I do recognize that it's 7:20 almost, and I know it's running a little longer than maybe we had anticipated, but I hope folks that have shown up tonight recognize that we see great value in the efforts that you've brought forth in working with Ron and Jose, and I hope you'll be able to stick it out with us. We're asking questions, making comments, because this is such an important topic, so thank you. Councilor Carrasco.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have to go to the extent of using a billboard. We know that it's cost, it's gonna be 8 weeks, and it's probably gonna be in an area where not everybody drives through. But I still believe we still have a long
bungee cord that I would say on Main Street.
Main Street, yeah.
That we can just hang a banner. Simple banner, download this app, let's take back our community. Boom, tip 411. That's a way, simple advertising. I'm not saying, I just think that in this budget, whether it's $1,000 for this banner or $3,200 for a billboard, I just think we need to include within this, because we know, we experienced it this year, you know, there's going to be areas where we're going to have to cut in the budget. So I'd rather use monies wisely if we have it now, where we can kick off. Because I think if we're gonna use this tip, we gotta do it now. We can't just wait next year, 2 years from now to advertise it. We have to advertise it as the grand opening. This is, let's make a big hoopla about it so people can actually take advantage of it.
So just, pretty much the presentation is done. I'm going through, just I will talk about the appendix really quickly, but our plan here is to implement this for the school year, next school year, right? So we want to start fresh with the next school year, so we hit the kids as they're coming in the door, right? And we want to build this off program through that whole process, right? That's the concept here. So the plan, the nice thing is that the plan is now in place. We know what we want to do, but like we have some work to do. You know, we have to sit down with Rebecca. We have to plan what the mailer to the parents are going to be like. We have to decide what kind of advertising we want to have in the schools. There's some decisions to make, but they're implementation decisions now. It's what do we do next? And to Esteban's point, that's an implementation issue. How are we going to implement this program? And if we need a little bit of money, we want to have a little bit of room to do stuff. We don't want to use the full 25 grand and not be able to budge. So that's the concept.
Well, I like, that's a great idea, because we own our parks. We could put signs in our parks, and they're permanent signs that we're not paying a rental fee for. We could put street signs wherever we please on our town-owned property. So that's a great idea, and we'll probably implement it.
Okay, we had two more questions, Ron. Councilor Steves and then Mr. Adams.
I've actually got 3 questions. One is, how would other departments besides the police department be able to put things on the tip 411?
There's, I wish I had the page I could show you. There's actually a page that you could, it's called the resource page, where you could put other links. There's obviously going to have to be an administrator who puts stuff on, and we can't give it to everybody, because forget it.
Yeah, who's
So
going to do that?
that's going to be, you know, they're going to have to contact somebody at the PD probably and say, hey, could you put this on, and then we'll probably do it.
Okay.
Can I make a suggestion that, although I'm not connected to the Wi-Fi right now, once the presentation's done and we're close to adjournment, if Jose wants to stick around, I can connect and he can give you a quick demo. It's really cool.
Okay.
All right? Thanks.
Yeah, because I was thinking in terms of getting people involved in other things as well, because we're always looking for volunteers to do stuff. You know, we're trying to get, like, for example, we've got the zoning project going on that we want to get people's input on and that kind of stuff. And there's always stuff that needs public input. So I'm thinking of that.
Use this dedicated for taking back our community. We have an emergency service program that we have already that we can tap into. It's just, if you start using this program for other things, it's going to lose its value and people are just not going to use it.
Okay, I think I understand. Let's try to keep it targeted towards substance abuse for now. Thank you.
One other thing I was curious about is how do we track? I'd love to see something in the plan about how we track effectiveness. How do we know? How do we know? Like after a year, how do we determine if something is working or not?
You know, I'm going to be blatantly honest with you guys. This is one of the hardest things when it comes to substance abuse issues that there is. That be it the treatment that Spectrum gives, the recovery services go, it's very hard to find out. So
I get that.
you could do surveys and stuff to ask people, how they feel about it. But I'm not going to lie to you and say there's just great metrics for that, because it just isn't, right? Because you don't know how it affects an individual, right? I'll give you an example, right? And I hear people talk about the old Ronald Reagan commercials, right? And people are always just a waste and everything else. But I can tell you, I remember those commercials like that. Your brain's on drugs and never scramble anything. I remember those things, and it had an impact on me because I still remember them, right? So that's an impact. I don't know that they would ever know what impact it had on me individually, but I still remember those very, very, very well. So at least there was something versus nothing, right? So I'm not going to promise you that we can come up with good metrics. I would hope that, maybe in the schools back here at the end of the year, we could have a survey around to the kids that says, well, you know, maybe questions about drugs and stuff. We could try to do some kind of metrics, but it's not gonna be easy, Gus. It's a difficult thing to do.
I understand.
So I agree, I just,
I disagree.
I don't know that there's anyone that's really, even the state, have really got a good handle on those metrics.
And I understand that, and I cannot remember back when we were originally talking about this discussion in this room. There were two of us that were really skeptical about it, me and Mike James. And I would like to see it, I want to see it work.
Yeah, we all do.
It actually shows that we can make it work. And I think we can. I definitely think that collectively, we can certainly make a difference, but I would like to see that it actually does work.
Well, I don't wanna disappoint you in this way. 25 grand and what we're doing is small compared to
Oh, I
what we need.
totally get that.
So we're not gonna solve the world's with 25 grand. What we're hoping to do is impact as many kids and people as we can on that limited amount of money, so.
Oh, I totally get that. And the third thing I wanted to ask is, I do really think that this ought to go up to the full council. Because we are talking about $25,000 of taxpayers' money. So it would be a good idea to make sure that we do all agree with what the plan is.
If I could
Go ahead, Ron.
So I don't care, right? We appropriate dollars in our budget that go to departments and they spend the monies and we don't make them come back for a second time to say what the appropriation is for. But I don't care if it goes back up to council or not, because I think this is a great plan. I think the committee has no problem. What I don't want, and I'll be blatantly honest, I'll say it to all the council members, is that for months and months and months, the professionals in this community who know this issue better than anybody else have developed this plan. And I just want to say that when it gets to council, I hope we don't, without having the kind of knowledge they have, all of a sudden start arbitrarily making changes, right? If that's going to be it, I'm going to lose my whole council, because they're going to go, if you don't care what I think, you're gone. So I just want to be cautious that we don't think that, you know, we kind of know more than they do. And I don't want to make changes because, oh, you know, I don't think we should advertise on billboards. I think we should advertise this way. That's really not our role as a council. We're supposed to trust in the professionals and the people, just like I'm supposed to trust the DPW. They know stuff about DPW. I don't want to get to where I lose my members here. And that's my fear, you know, so I want to be cautious about that. If you want to bring the council, great.
Thank you for your comment, and I'll step in here just for a second. I'll get right to you, Mr. Adams. I've been following this and participating as an invited guest for many, well, probably for the full time I've been on council, and I appreciate that. I've spoken with almost everybody that's in this room, not everybody, most everybody, individually and at your committee meetings, and I've done my best to not throw in my 2 cents too often. What I want to say on this particular matter is pretty much what you just said, Ron. The council, the previous council, allotted this money, appropriated $25,000 to be spent. I can appreciate what Councilor Steves has said. However, due to council influence, you lost members to that committee. And I'll be darned if we're going to sit here and micromanage any further. So my thought is, we've invested a lot of time and energy already, and if council is going to take a vote on something like this, it should be a vote of support and not a vote of approval. So, and I'm sorry, I'm getting loud because I thought the microphone was further away. I'm not mad. So it would be my recommendation that if councilors want to micromanage, that's fine. You can do that for the duration. But at the end of the day, we brought this forward as a discussion item because the professionals have worked with the town manager and with Deputy Chief Dinghy to make this non-political. Your last council already appropriated the money, Gus.
I know that.
And I would prefer to keep politics out of this. However, I would tonight, at the conclusion of the discussion, entertain a motion if a councilor that is on our committee or if a citizen member wants to make a motion, we could entertain it. However, I'm firm in my position that it isn't necessary. So with that, Mr. Adams.
Thank you. Dave Adams, 1023 Northwood Stock Road. Chief, real quick, we're talking about monies. Any monies that you seize on a raid, do we get a percentage back, or does the PD get a percentage back so you can maybe reinvest it into the program?
Yeah, that was a thought to how to fund this in the future, and I talked to the town manager about this. We do get a portion of seized money, depending how many towns are involved, the task force involves a minimum. So it ranges anywhere from 20% to 50% what we get back. But usually it's on the lower end after every government agency gets their cut.
So could any of that fund, or any of those funds go back into the program to help with the advertising?
Yeah, those funds have to go directly into narcotic use or fight. So this, I would say, fits the bill.
So Dave, if I could just add to that, right? So that's been going on for years. So they use the money for making new drug buys. They have things that they use that money for. So I think they'd be willing to help us, but they're not gonna be able to put up the lion's share because they already have kind of other things that they use that money for.
No, but I completely understand.
But it could help,
We're-
yes.
We're working.
And let me just add this, because people don't know. We have to buy drugs off the drug dealers, so it's very expensive. We run out of money pretty quick with that money we're getting in. And it's weird when we come to the town manager or the town council, hey, we need more money for drugs. They look at us and
I actually hope the drugs keep going up, that means you're getting scared and you're running out.
Yeah.
So, anyway, second question was to, maybe this group over here was veterans. Do you help any veterans out? Does this program help any did you see any veterans come in through your doors?
Spectrum?
Spectrum, definitely.
Spectrum, probably the-
Yeah.
All right, if you
I'm
need
sure
any help with
Harrington.
veterans, please, I'll give you my phone number.
Absolutely.
All right, I was I was one of those guys that disciplined, kicked them out, sent them to treatment, visited wherever they had to go. I understand what you're going through, and so any help I can give you, please.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Can I speak on behalf of my opinion as being part of, I have to say, in regards to statistics, we need to actually start figuring out what we need to do and put it out there. And I'm gonna go back like I discussed at the beginning when I got involved with smoke. When I was a teenager in high school, it was stop smoking, stop smoking. Well, I smoked. I have to tell you, my daughter was in her 20s. She was that next generation that those kids in their 20s now forget about smoking. So I don't know if we're gonna see an impact right away, like within the next 5 years, but we will see a huge impact in generations. And statistically, I can tell you, in our program, in our families, the newsletter that Ron put together, that has been amazing. In just that short time, that newsletter has touched 4 people. We got 3 people into recovery.
Awesome. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you for speaking up. All right, Ms. Shea, and by the way, Ms. Martina Shea is a member of our committee. She walked in and sat in the back to begin. Thank you.
Sorry. I just have a quick suggestion that's cheap. Whenever I go to the hospital, in the ladies' room, they have papers with the little tear-off things, and they're all for physical abuse. But I would think that if we could come up with some kind of a number that people could call, because they like to do it, they like to think about it and then do it privately.
So just
Sure.
like the Commissioner, so
Nice
one of the
idea.
things he's talking about newsletter is we developed a newsletter that has how to get help with all the emergency numbers. It really focuses on, if you give this newsletter to somebody, they can, with that newsletter, they can find help in a real simple, easy manner, right? So Supercuts, who's that, the haircutting place in the Big Bunny?
Yeah,
Big Y.
Not Big Bunny, Big Y.
Great Clips.
Great Clips. I got them, they made 500 copies for me. I just put, that they on the top of the newsletter, I put that they support this program, and he made me 500 free copies, and they're all over town hall, around. So if you have a company that wants to sponsor us and willing to pay for it, I'll just put their name on the thing, and we'll give 500 copies to the schools they can bring around the schools. But it's this newsletter, I tried when I developed this to simplify the message that it would make it easy as possible to find an AA meeting, to find a treatment center, to call an emergency care number. It's phenomenal in that way. So this is what I would love to have every person in town have. This newsletter. It would be huge. So
It's superb, but there's the people that are hardest to reach are the neediest, and I am always shocked at the number of little tabs that are torn off the bottom of these things. I sit there and think, oh my, these people are hurting. So it's just a cheap thought.
No, it's a good one.
Thank you, Ms. Shea. Councilor Clay?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, I was just gonna echo the same sentiment pretty much that you had about this going up to council, versus approval and versus support. I'm not on this subcommittee, but I am in full support of this as written. I know that when we were first talking about the allocation of the money, I said, I would not like to see this one specific thing. And that one specific thing happens to be there, but I have more faith and the professionals and everybody that put this together and spent all of this time and energy. And I trust you all, and I thank you for all of the work that you did. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Claire. Councilor Morales?
Thank you, through you,
Yep.
Councilor Rick. So thank you, Town Manager Jose, the group. This is great. My first year on council, and I feel like so excited to hear more information about this. Honestly, I just wanted to. Is it Michelle? So I wanted to say the same thing you said about we can't expect to get changes in our numbers now. This is kind of like a generation impact. Maybe in 10 years we'll see the impact that we cause now, because you can't expect to start educating freshmen on not using drugs, and there's a difference when you start freshman year or you start at 6th grade. They'll have more time and we can influence them more, and throughout the years before in their high school years these numbers are going to change. We can't expect them to change if we start educating freshman year. It's kind of like a change. We have to be patient, and we have to trust you guys. 25 grand, I wish we could give you more. Honestly, I think you guys are doing a great plan with these $25,000. I mean, we can't expect, like I said, we just can't expect it to. We can't expect to see it now. This has to be a long-term plan that our town and community members and our citizens give the trust to you guys to take care of our students. And I think this is great. Thank you. I can't find the perfect words to appreciate you guys more.
Councilor Morales, I think you'll find it interesting that the principals were nodding their heads in agreement with you with your first part of your statement. It was very, very, very well said. Thank you. Mr. Daniel.
I just want to echo what people up here have been saying. I'm a retired vice principal. I facilitated a lot of the production of programs like this back in my day. And I find that these are very valuable programs. It really makes an impact on the kids. The kids are talking about it days later. So I can't speak to what Chief Dingy is doing. That's his bailiwick. But as far as what you'd be doing for the schools, I think it's marvelous. Great job.
Thank you, Mr. Daniel. Jasmine? Ms. Rivas, right?
Yes.
Thank you. And can you speak up? Our microphone's way up here.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm going to try my classroom voice. So I came onto the committee a little bit late, but we were able to, we do a health week at the middle school and the high school every year. And so we were able to tweak this year and have speakers coming in. We have someone from Recovery High School coming in to speak to students on Wednesday, May 30th. And then in the evening, we have a program for parents that we collaborated with the district attorney's office and their presentation of Hidden in Plain Sight that they will present to parents that evening at 25 Cole Ave at 6 p.m. And I expect everyone here to try to make it that night and invite as many parents as possible. They put on this presentation where they show parents exactly what to look for. It's an incredible display that they put together. We'll have a panel of speakers, including our Chief Woodson will be there. And so we really want to get everyone out to this event because we really wanted to sort of kick off, and I know that we have plans for next year, but we really wanted to jumpstart all the information, getting to students and really getting parents and students involved in prevention and all of this.
Could you repeat that date, please?
Wednesday, May 30th, 6 p.m. at 25 Cole Ave.
Okay, thank you. Fantastic, thank you.
We're also doing a poster contest for our students that week, and so we're hoping that this committee can provide a prize for our students. And it won't be $2,500.
So even to that
Something
degree,
close.
start thinking about the newsletter to parents and seeing if you want to get your kids now, because we want to put out the next school year. If you want the kids to help develop that message with you this year, by all means start rocking on it.
Can I see you after?
Councilor Sleeps.
Where do you see this going after this first year?
So here would be, I'm gonna give you my feeling about this, right? So I didn't put anything from this year's free cash appropriation because we're not starting this to the new school year, so this will get us through this year. But if it's up to me, if we have free cash every year and I don't have enough money for the police department, I'm gonna come back to you and keep asking for this money to keep this program alive as long as I'm here and we keep developing. Because this message is all about repetition, you know?
absolutely.
You can't just, if we do it like, if you remember the old, and not to be insulting towards the old DARE program, right? But the DARE program, it hits you in 5th grade and then you never see it again and it doesn't build. We need to build this every year to keep the message alive. So I'm gonna keep coming back looking for resources to this and looking at the state for potential resources to keep building it. So this is as long as I'm here, it's not gonna be a one-issue deal. It's gonna be every year I'm gonna be looking for this.
I just want to recommend that I don't really want to see it with Angela leaving, but if the next town manager is hired, we would like to continue with the same initiative.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think it
I don't
makes
want to
sense. It
stop
would,
there.
it would go forward, you would kind of need to make it go forward for it to work. I totally get that. I just want,
Sure.
curious to see where it's going.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ms. Velez. Councilor Carrasco.
Ms. Velez struck a nerve. I just want to make it clear also that this is a committee, an advisory committee that was launched not by the council, strictly by Mr. San Angelo, because of his vested interest in making our town better. So, though the committee would like to launch and continue, I would be an optimist to say that the next town manager would want to keep this going. Whether it's 3 years from now, 6 years from now, 10 years from now, whatever the timetable would be, whoever comes on board would be able to see the results of such a program, see the results, the statistics. But, you know, I just want to publicly let it be known that, you know, thanks to Mr. Sanendo and his hard work and his persistence, because I know when we sat down last year in a room and he brought this forward, I said, absolutely, don't worry about the council. You go do this because you have professionals in our community that will support this. So I just want to make it very known that the success of this committee also is the success of the town, but it was not the council. The council had nothing to do.
No,
This was
they helped. Let me.
we allocated money.
The money, right. Important aspect.
But we allocated monies, but the launching of this program and the launching of this advisory board was strictly on the shoulders of our town manager, Ron. So I just want to say thank you publicly and keep it going.
Thank you, Councilor Carrasco. And I want to just step in and chime in a little bit too, because this has been an extensive, wonderful discussion. I hope that all 5 councilors that are present are as gratified, satisfied, pleased, excited as I am. I'm grateful for the questions, the comments from Councilors O'Clair, Carrasco, Steves, Councilor Morales, citizen members, and everyone here. But I want to just give a special nod too, because I have been paying attention. I've had a lot of time on my hands this year since I just have a lot of time on my hands. I try not to interfere, but I've paid attention. I've been honored to be invited to a lot of these meetings and events. The Chris Herron thing really struck a nerve with me, so I'm grateful to Spectrum. Thank you, Brittany, and to everyone else in the committee. Deputy Chief Dingy has been a hound dog, but what's more, I'm going to give another special nod to Michelle, because I know Michelle is your right hand. And I know because when we need to get stuff done, Michelle's been there taking care of business for you. And with that, I'm going to stop talking because I know that this has been a long discussion. And in deference to what Councilor Steves said earlier, I would ask the committee if anyone would like to put forth a motion. Just be mindful that we did put this on the agenda as a presentation discussion, but you are allowed to make a motion if you'd like. It's entirely up to the committee, and if Councilor Steves wants to elaborate on what you'd suggest, I'm more than happy to open that to you, Gus.
I think
Okay.
I said what I need to say.
Okay. And what I'd say is, I certainly, as a member of the General Government Subcommittee, if you so chose to bring this forward to that committee, I will attend your meeting, of course. But anyone?
I don't see any need to do that.
Okay.
But I mean,
I don't think so either.
I think we might. Well, it is being videotaped, so the public will see.
Right. I think that I think we've accomplished a lot here thus far. It's been a long time coming, but it's a fantastic document. I think that there's plenty of room to grow. I'd love to see additional funds in the future brought forth. But I am going to continue because you know what, Councilor Steves, you made an excellent point. And I know that it's hard to quantify or evaluate results, but we can't make a difference if we don't start. And this step needs to be taken. So I hope we can do, and we will have to spend more money in the future. I thought Ron, go ahead.
So I want to comment because I want to be clear. I would love to have the support of the town council to have a vote and support it. So a motion to vote to support this would be great in my opinion, because I really think the town council put the 25 grand. I really believe that was an important step. Now, they voted to appropriate, so in my opinion, once they appropriate the money, you know, I'm allowed to spend it, because this is really just like every other budget purpose. But at the same time, I would love to have Council Steves and other councilors vote in support of what we're doing, because the community needs to know that the town council is behind this. So I'm not looking for a motion to approve exactly the spending here, but I would love to have council make a motion to support what we're doing, because I think it's important to have Councilor Steves, and I think he supports us strongly. I'd love to have the council vote to support this, to let them know that they got their back and that they support what they did, because I appreciate the compliments to me, but I couldn't do this without these guys. These guys are the true professionals. They did a great job. So I really would love a motion to support the effort by this group to continue moving forward. That, I think, would be a good thing.
Okay.
So.
All right. So just to frame that, the way that I would envision it, Ron, is the document itself isn't exactly what you need supported. You're looking for support of the expenditures.
The general concept, yeah, the general concept of what this document's trying to do. We need the versatility to be able to spend a few dollars for what Esteban's talking about, to sell the tip program. I'm not looking to vote this exact document to approve this document, but the general support of the concepts of what this document is doing is really what I would be looking for. Does the town council like this document? Do they feel it's a good thing? Do they want to support the concept of this and to continue moving forward? That's what I would be looking for. So that we all can say, hey, you know what, we're doing the right thing, the council's supporting it. I think that is important to us. So I would love to see that kind of vote if council's willing to do it.
Well, let me throw it out this way and then see if someone wants to accept or make the motion and then second it. But the way that I would envision this is that we would entertain a motion to recommend that council support the town manager's advisory committee's substance abuse plan and spending plan as presented tonight. Does anyone want to make that motion? Mr. Daniel?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, do we have a second?
second.
Okay. Councilor Carrasco has a comment or a question?
I just want to emphasize that this motion should just be a motion of support. The money has already allocated, they will spend it however they wish.
That's the verbiage that I use, Councilor Carrasco.
Because I was talking to Andy and I was like, we can't tell them how to spend the money. It's already been approved. I mean,
Understood.
I just.
So as long as it's clearly noted in the minutes, the motion is with the word support, not
To
approve.
recommend that council support the town manager's substance abuse advisory board spending plan.
Okay.
I just want to make it clear that I will not be supporting that motion. Do you guys like this document? You guys like? That's what that matters. These are the people that are putting the hard work. That makes it sufficient for me.
Sure. Councilor Clay?
I was just gonna say maybe be a little bit more vague, but I also, I mean, if you want to see a vote of support from the council.
It's only for a vote of support for the general concept.
Why don't you just do the?
It
Yeah, like I think.
doesn't have to define the document anyway, just say
I
general
think it should
support
be
of
in
the
support of
concepts in this document,
yeah.
simple as that.
Because if you support the document as written,
Yeah,
and
once
then
you say I can't
and then they
change the
say,
dollar,
oh,
yeah, that's-
yeah, and then all of a sudden that 21.9 goes to 23 because they do some 411 signs or something.
That's why I don't want specific.
Yeah, I think you guys should be as
Well,
vague as
I'll make a note
possible to do
that
it.
the document doesn't have a title. It says advisory board, and then it's labeled as a substance abuse plan at the footers. So it's kind of
You
hard
just
to
say, I
be
guess you could just
overly
say that
vague.
the town council supports the efforts of the Southbridge substance abuse plan, and the substance abuse advisory board.
I think that would be a good.
All right.
Up to you.
Go ahead, Councilor Carrasco.
I just, through you to the town manager, because again, we're going back a year now, when this money was allocated, the directive was to bring a plan. So you bring in the plan. Now, I'm thinking, I get what you're saying, because if you brought the plan and it's not supported, it could be used either way, but the money's already been
Right.
approved.
I'm not,
So
that's my opinion.
I'm confused on the mindset behind the support, because you followed every step that the council has asked. The council directed you to create a plan, not approve the plan.
Right.
And this is where I'm afraid of the micromanaging
Yeah.
of a substance abuse advisory board that really has no jurisdiction to the council.
No, this is me. Truthfully,
This is you. So
this
that's
is
what I'm
me
saying.
with the support of them. It's not really them
You've
in
done-
that aspect of it, right?
You've done what the council has asked you. The council asked you to produce the plan, you've produced the plan. So, I mean, you have the support of the EHS committee. I mean, there's 5 counselors here, you've gauged already their support. And unfortunately, we're not even a full council, so we're a council of 8. So for you to ask approval of a plan.
It's not approval.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying, or the support of a plan, I'm afraid of that wrong message being sent. I think you've done what the council has requested of you. It was just again, we might have to go back in minutes, we might have to go back in time, I'm not sure, but the directive was just create the plan.
Right.
You've done the plan. If it would have been create a plan and have it approved, then.
No, I know my
just-
direct. My direct promise was to bring the council a plan. That was my direct. I made that promise to council because I wanted them to know that we had a plan. It wasn't for them to approve it. It was I said to them, "You're giving me 25 grand. Trust me, I'm going to bring you a plan to see, so you know." That was my promise, and that's all my promise was.
I think it would follow up with a presentation to the council as a whole, because there is counselors missing. So that's my suggestion. Instead of a motion, just bring this presentation to the council.
Understood.
That's fine.
Thank you. Mr. Pelletier?
So, and I'm not gonna pretend to know how politics work. A more appropriate motion be to release the funds in accordance with the original.
They've already been released. I have the funds that are allocated.
Oh, I thought they were holding the funds until
No,
they
no,
got
I
released.
know.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Pelletier. Deputy Chief Dingy?
As the chair of this committee, I will say that I know a lot of the members didn't want this committee to be political.
Correct.
And when we started trying to organize them as that, some were saying, well, I don't want to be part of this. It's going to be too political. So I just ask you guys to be careful of that and just be wary of what the committee members, these are. And like I said, this is like a dream team, professionals that we got at the table, and they don't get a penny to do this like you guys. So I don't want to lose anybody over politics.
These aren't people from Boston or consultants. They know Southbridge too, and there's great value in that, Jose.
Absolutely.
Does anyone have any other comments? Okay. And just so everyone knows, I'm voting no on this as well. I appreciate the motion because it facilitated the discussion. So, all in favor? All opposed? Unanimous opposed. Thank you.
So, are you going to add this? Should you recommend to the chair to add this to the agenda for?
I make no
another
recommendation.
presentation?
That's between you and the chair.
Okay.
Because I know that she had wanted to try to get this done, but I was tired of waiting.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you to everybody from the committee, and I hope that members of the council that are here don't mind me saying that on their behalf as well, we're really grateful for the efforts you put forth. Thank you for including the council, although we didn't had a lot of comments. It was great to be involved. Thank you for your service.
I can't thank you guys all enough for coming either and for all your help. We couldn't have done it without you guys.
Thank you.
You're a godsend. I mean, this has been great.
Our committee has one more item, but if everyone's ready to get rolling, because I know it's almost 8 o'clock, please do feel free to move along. Thank you so very much. We're going to continue. Thank you, Jose. Don't forget your phone. All right, we have item number 8, new business. Does anybody have any new business? I have one item just for the next committee meeting to announce. Southbridge Lions has donated $500 to the summer concert series. We'll take it up next time. It was brought to me yesterday, so I told Steve we'd put it on the next agenda.
It's 500.
That's mine.
Okay. Just wanted to go ahead.
So 100.
Does anyone have anything else? $500, yep. So, if there is no other new business, would anyone like to move to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
Councilor Morales moved to adjourn, Ms. Shea seconded, all in favor? Unanimous? Thank you.